Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we have a great show for you this week. And before we get started, I want you to know that Randy Carlyle is still the coach of the Anaheim Ducks. Yes, that is correct. He is still the coach of the Anaheim Ducks. So before you get upset and throw some shit or yell at us, he is still the coach. But anyways, the Ducks went 1-1-1 this last week. We're going to talk about the games. We're going to talk about Fowler's injury. We're going to talk about what's going on in the league and all kinds of stuff. Plenty of fan questions to get to as well. So, Eddie, the Ducks did go, like I said, 1-1-1 this week. What's your initial reaction? You know, everybody blew up, of course, when the Ducks lost to Vegas. But what's your thoughts just before we go into the games?
We got some points. I mean, that was good. We beat Nashville, which was awesome. I was a little unhappy that the Ducks, you know, their promotion team didn't have the free parking night. that was kind of a bite in my ass to me. And also, I was surprised that, you know, Kessler and Johansson didn't go at it. I was expecting that. I was looking forward to seeing that. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I mean, getting 3 points in 2 games this week, I think that was pretty good. And I'm not going to count that Wednesday game because if you even call that a game, Ducks weren't even there. I don't know where they were. I mean, they showed up for, 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden they went to the bar and got blacked out. I mean, it's Vegas, so it's cool for them, but it sucks for us that we had to witness that game.
Yeah, the Ducks went into this week, and we talked about it on the last show. As far as Nashville, we said, hey, they're going to play the Predators. It's going to be a big game. You know, it's important. And the Ducks showed up for it. I mean, they actually played really well in this game. The shots weren't, too much of a disparity. The Predators had 35. The Ducks had 30. The Ducks won the faceoffs. And the Ducks ended up pulling this game out. You know, they ended up they had to go, into extra overtime and a shootout as well. But, they pulled it out. Getzlaf scored a goal. It looked like the Ducks, were going to carry that, 1-0 lead into the third period. Then, of course, Nashville got one, and they ended up going to overtime and then a shootout. And the Ducks pulled it out. Aberg and Raquel getting the 2 goals there. And the Ducks won in a hard-fought game, a game that, we were kind of curious to see how they would show up against Nashville, who, the best team in the league. And Gibson was in net against Rene. And the Ducks pulled us out. I thought they played a really good game. I thought that some of the penalties that were called against the Ducks were kind of bullshit. But, that's the way it is. The Ducks were called for 7 penalties in this game, including one in overtime, which, I don't know. This team always gets called for more penalties. They lead the league in the disparity of penalties for and penalties against. But the Ducks were able to pull this one out. And after that game against Minnesota, they got blown out last Friday when I was there. Holy smokes. And, of course, everybody was calling for Carlyle's head after that game. But in this one, they ended up, winning the faceoffs. They blocked a lot of shots, and they pulled it out. It took a shootout, but this was a big win, Eddie, for the Ducks.
Yeah, it was good. It was just something that we needed. A lot of people were going in there expecting that we weren't going to win, and it just, it's something good. They took us out of, the playoffs and something, I guess the fans. Yeah, and there's some hatred right there with the fans from both sides. With Predators fans all of a sudden showed up when they went to the playoffs and think they're knowledgeable about hockey and think they're the greatest thing in the world when they're pretty much not. But it was good to see that win. I didn't watch the game live, unfortunately. I was playing my beer league games, but I came. I know, right? So, but after the games, I was dead tired. I still a little rattled from all the hits I was taking last week. But it was good to see the Ducks win, and I came home and finally rewatched the game, and it was good to see that. I mean, the Ducks weren't playing as physical as I'd like. They only had, 6 hits compared to Nashville's 17. That has to change. That's not the way hockey's supposed to be played when a team just out-hitting. It seems like, me on a drunk night playing my freaking NHL 19 where I had the hit setting all the way up and just hitting teams, not even trying to score. I mean, something had to be done with that. I mean, this is a team that knocked you out of the playoffs, the team that you're supposed to hate. You know, the hatred falls with the fans. You're supposed to just knock them on their ass, like hit them more. You know, stop giving them so much opportunity and create space. I mean, I guarantee if the hits were up, the Ducks probably would have had a 3-1, 4-1 win in this game.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that too in the last show, the physical play and how the Ducks need to turn that up. And it's been something that's been, here and there. We've seen it a few games and then not seen it a few games. And it's part of the inconsistency that we've seen with this team, unfortunately. This game is kind of interesting too. Kassé finally made his debut. He finally came back from all his concussion stuff. Max Comtois was sent down to San Diego, so was Lundstrom. Comtois been doing well. He's been scoring some goals down there. He should be back up soon. And also Eves was out too. We found out that Eves has back spasms, and he's been dealing with that for a little while. So Ducks still dealing with all the injuries and whatnot, but they were able to come out and win this game. Eddie, like I said, you're a veteran. That game was Military Appreciation Night, so I'm glad the Ducks won. We did give away tickets to Rick LeBounty, and he actually had to turn them back into us, Eddie. His children bought him tickets to the game, so we ended up giving the tickets to Wendy Smith, who was like the close runner-up as well. So she went with her husband, and they enjoyed the game. So at least, the Ducks won. Good night for Military Appreciation. And, things look good, coming out this week after they played Minnesota and laid that egg. And so they go, to Vegas and they lay a huge golden egg, quote unquote, against the Knights. They played not so bad in the first period. The Ducks only were down 1-0 after 20 minutes. Then they freaking got blown up in the second period. Cody Eakin scored twice. Holden scored. Ducks got down 4-0, couldn't recover. They kind of had their own goal scored too. Henrique knocked the puck back in there. And the Ducks actually outshot Vegas in this game 29-25. They won the faceoffs 59-41%. But after the first period, they got rattled. And you even saw Carlyle pulling out Gibson too in the middle of the game. So the Ducks went to Vegas. They had no luck, Eddie. They ended up getting smoked in this game, 5-0. What did you think about this one? I mean, the Ducks played so well against Nashville. You thought maybe they would carry that momentum into Las Vegas, and yeah, not so much.
What game? Which game are you talking about? I didn't see a game played after the first period.
Yeah,
I don't know what the hell the Ducks were doing. It sucks that Henrique scored a goal against his own team. I mean, I guess if you want the stats, it unfortunately doesn't count for him. It's easy to say like Gibson had a bad game, which he didn't have his strongest game. But I mean, we're expecting Gibson to be, Mr. Magic Man and pull something out of his ass when he can't. The Ducks once again, Lindholm standing around, not clearing in front of the net, letting Vegas get that second and third chances. I mean, what's going to happen? You're going to just, if you guys are going to do that, why don't you just go sit on the bench and let Vegas just have a 5-on-0 and just shoot a shooting clinic on Gibson? It was ridiculous. It just seemed like the Ducks, after they got down, they just didn't care anymore and just stopped really playing. I mean, they were just going through the motions, but weren't really playing the game of hockey. And it was a bad day Wednesday. Wednesday was a bad day. I had a playoff game too, and it was probably like one of my worst games I played this month. I actually got hit more than I actually hit someone, so that's really rare for me because I'm a physical player. And then after the game, seeing the score, I'm like, oh man. And I watch every game. Even when I don't watch it live, I still watch it. And it was just heartbreaking to watch this Vegas game knowing the score already. So I'm sitting there just overly drinking on a Wednesday, like, you know what? Whatever. I know the Ducks already lost. I'm going to watch this game, and 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, 6, 7 shots later for me. But yeah, I mean, the Ducks are playing against a struggling Vegas team. They should have came out, a little bit more. I mean, credit to Flower over there. He played an amazing game, especially in that first period. The Ducks looked dangerous and had a lot of opportunities, but he shut them down, and the Ducks just gave up.
Yeah, and the bad thing, too, is going into this game, the Ducks lost Fowler in the game against Nashville. He got hit with the puck in the face off a deflection. Then they ended up, it looked kind of bad, but it didn't look really that terrible. But then they ended up saying that he needed surgery and that he's going to be out for, we don't know exactly how much, but he had surgery on Friday. He's going to be out probably at least a month or so. So they didn't have him in this game against Vegas. They had Montour, Peterson, Larson, Manson, Walensky, and Lindholm. Walensky was brought back up for this, but it's kind of rough. I mean, you have Fowler gone. The struggles on defense, almost all the Ducks defensemen were, minus or even on their plus minus. So, I mean, it's rough. The Ducks lost a big player. And, I mean, we'll talk about later in the show, but it, goes into all the trade stuff. Of course, Nylander's been a big one, but we'll talk more about it later. But you can see that in this game, the Ducks didn't quite do what they needed to do after the first period. I was happy that Carlyle did pull Gibson. I talked about it on the show last week if you didn't hear about it. But I felt like the game got out of control once it was 3-0. And I was happy with that. I've still said that Gibson should not be starting every game. He's been starting about 80% of the games now. The Ducks have had about 21 games, and he started almost all of them. It's only been a handful that Miller started. And I was glad that they pulled him out. Not because I didn't think Gibson played that bad in the beginning. Yeah, he could have played a little bit better. But, I think the Ducks need to give him a little bit more of a rest, and they should start Miller more often. But I was actually surprised that Carlyle did pull Gibson, because that third goal was a own goal with Henrique knocking it in. So when they pulled him out, I was like, oh, wow. Maybe he listened to the podcast. I don't know. But, I thought that was the right move. Obviously, the Ducks couldn't rally and come back. Miller gave up a couple goals too. But it's really weird. This team is like it's crazy. You play Nashville, the best team in the league, and you beat them. Then you go play the Golden Knights that aren't having a great season like they did in their first year, and you lose. You go 0 for 4 on the power play. You get down 1-0 early, and you can't recover. It's weird how this team is, Eddie. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde team. One night you're all excited and they win, and then the other night you're like, what the hell happened?
Oh, definitely. They sit there and play with our emotions. It's like I don't know if the Ducks are in their mind like, hey, you know what? Let's just start playing with the fans this season. Let's show up, against an important game against one of the best teams in the league and beat them and get everyone all happy, and then show up to a struggling Vegas team and let's just lose drastically and get them all sad again. I mean, I think it's like called homeostasis or something like that. Like, man, it's kind of tough to see. And my complaint is, I mean, like I said, I've loved this team no matter what, but the team that we have, we should be playing to the best of our ability and better than we are. And also, like, when you're playing the game of hockey, especially at the professional level, you should be giving it 110% each and every day, each and every shift that you're out there. And I haven't seen that consistency from the Ducks. Like you said, it's inconsistent, and that's the best word to describe it. And that's what really gets me frustrated. I mean, I don't care if the Ducks go 0-82, but as long as they're playing the game at 100%, I mean, that's all I ask for. Just if you lose, at least lose playing at 100%. Don't lose playing 60, 70% and only playing 30 minutes of the game. I mean, that's really unacceptable, and that's really frustrating with this team right now.
Yeah, and you had to think after beating Nashville and then playing lackluster against Vegas, then they had Toronto coming to town. Toronto's been playing well, so you're like, well, okay, what kind of team is going to show up on Friday night against the Leafs? You're sitting there going, and the Ducks actually showed up for this one. They actually played good in this game. They outshot the Leafs 39-35. They won the faceoffs. Neither team scored on the power play, but I really thought the Ducks deserved to win this game. They ended up losing in the overtime, but the first goal by Patrick Marleau was kind of lucky. Gardner throws the puck towards him. It goes off his skate, and it looks like Manson's stick, and it goes in. Kind of a BS goal, in my mind. But the Ducks come back. Aberg ties it up in the second period. And then the third period, the Ducks went nuts. I want to say that third period this season was probably one of the best periods I've seen this team play. I mean, they were all over Sparks, all over him. They had a shot off the post. Casse, in my opinion, could have had a hat trick in the third period alone. He had a couple where he had one with a defenseman. He had a wide open net, and the defenseman it went off his skate. He had another one where he whiffed just barely as Sparks was falling down. He had all kinds of chances since he came back. I mean, he was one of the best players on the ice along with Aberg in that game. And I really thought in that third period that the Ducks would get the go-ahead goal. They even got a power play, and they went nuts on that power play. We've seen it where they don't always have the possession, but they actually did. They had 5 or 6 shots. And it really looked like the Ducks were going to win that game. And then they go into overtime, and we know how great they are on 3-on-3. Tavares with a good back check springs his team the other way, and they get the game-winning goal. And it's just heartbreak. This is one of the games where I really thought the Ducks deserved the 2 points. I thought they would win in regulation. Tough loss. I mean, they played good against a Toronto team that's been playing well, but they just came up short, Eddie.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'm not even mad about this game. They played that 110% hockey I'm talking about. They showed up. Their hits were a little low, I guess, for me, but they were on the puck. They were clearing the front of the net. They came to play, and they played 100% game, 110% game all around. And I like what I saw. Casse, like you said, he could have had a hat trick. He has, 15 shots in the last 3 games he's been back? I mean, those goals are going to start pouring in once he hits that back of the net. It's just going to go from there. Like I could predict, maybe a 25, 30 goal score, and hopefully it starts, translating to the back of the net with that. This was an overall pretty decent game. I mean, yeah, we still lost, which sucks. It's bittersweet for me. I have Morgan Riley on my fantasy team, so him scoring a goal was good on my end. But then losing in overtime for the Ducks was terrible. But you know what? You can, as a Ducks fan and hockey players too, can hold their heads up high because they played against one of the top Eastern Conference teams, and they held on, and they pretty much controlled the game, and they looked a lot better than what we've seen before. It still sucks that the Maple Leafs put their backup goalie in. It's like I told you before. It's kind of like a slap in the face. Like, oh, let's start our mediocre goalie and not start our superstar goalie against the Ducks because it's an easy win. But I guess the Ducks really came out to play and really proved that it's not going to be easy playing against this team. And I wish the Ducks can play this every single game because trust me, their record wouldn't be as bad as it is right now. I mean, it's not that bad, but they did have a lot more wins than what they have right now. And I mean, I'm happy about this game. I think this is one of the best games of the week, or if not the best game of the week. I mean, yeah, beating Nashville was cool, but just the way they played, this game was everything they should be playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you played 3 games. You had 2 top teams, Nashville and Toronto. They played well. And then you had Vegas, who's struggling. You don't play well. And we've seen this before. This is nothing new. You guys all know that out there. They played down to their competition and played up to their competition. So we kind of saw this week. So, that's what happened. I mean, they ended up getting 3 points. I had hoped they'd win 2 out of 3, but that's where we're at. And, they're 3 points out of first, which, I mean, is not terrible. They're 8, 9, and 4, so you can't be too upset. But, I guess the biggest highlight on Friday, too, was Brzgalov was in the house. It's pretty interesting. He answered one of our fan questions. He didn't answer our question for some reason. I don't know what's going on there. But
it was the exact question, too. But, we'll leave it at that. I guess.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. I don't know. We asked our question, it wasn't answered, but on the main account. But then Aaron's was answered, so it was good to see him there, anyways. And obviously the Ducks didn't win, but always good to see Briz. He's hilarious as always. So the Ducks still sitting there at 3 points out of first, playing up and down, to the competition. And it's kind of interesting, though. I mean, the way this week's gone, I've seen a lot of the social media posts out there, and everybody, especially after the Vegas game, was like, the one I love, the GIF is the Boo This Man GIF. Freaking hilarious. I saw a lot of people sending me that one. But a lot of people were upset about Carlyle, of course. They want him out of there, get him out of there. I saw this. This whole situation, it's kind of weird, Eddie. It's like people want to root for the Ducks to lose, but they want them to lose so that Carlyle will be gone. It's just weird. It's a weird dynamic. I've seen a bunch of people sending me messages. I've seen people posting things, and I'm just kind of like, what the hell? I don't know how you feel. I wouldn't root for the Ducks to lose, but I understand why people want them to lose because they want Carlyle gone. It's just kind of weird. What do you think of that dynamic? It's kind of interesting.
Well, I've said it numerous times. I think rehiring someone back is a mistake. I mean, you broke up or you fired someone for a reason. I say broke up because I use the example of, would you ever go back to your ex? I mean, you broke up for a reason. If you go back, the same things are going to happen again. At times I was like, oh my God, I just hope the Ducks lose. So they can, maybe the GM will fire the coach and start doing something, to progress our team better, just like LA did firing their coach. But then again, when I'm watching the game, I'm that competitive nature in me. I'm like, no, I don't want the Ducks to lose. Like, no, they have to win. They have to win. They have to win. I think it's about that time. It's been that time where it's time to cut ties with it. Murray, you were wrong. I mean, he's hiring him back. Cool. I know he's a great coach. He's probably one of the best coaches there was, in the game. He brought us our cup, and I'll always be forever thankful for him. But this game is changing, and if you're not going to adapt to variable change, you're not going to be successful. And it seems like when push comes to shove, our coach goes back to the same old dump and chase predictable thing, and every coach in the NHL really knows his game and kind of can predict that. I mean, you have to be able to change up your game in an instant, just as fast as the game is in the ice. That's how your mind should be as a coach, and it's not seen that. I mean, and you mentioned too that one good thing he did was finally pull Gibson, and when the game got out of control in Vegas, I mean, he should have pulled Gibson numerous times, not because Gibson played bad, but I mean, you're pretty much letting your goalie out to dry like that. I mean, come on, if your team's not going to play good in front of your franchise goalie, I mean, pull the goalie, let him get some rest, don't risk him for injury. And I'm sure Gibson wouldn't mind that. I'm pretty sure there's some of those games where they were being outskated, outshot, out controlled, and he wouldn't mind just being like, you know what, I'm done. I mean, that's just my take on it.
No, I feel you. We talked about that on the last show, and it's kind of weird. I compare Randy Carlyle to Donald Trump, and you maybe sit there going, "What? What are you talking about?" And I know I'm not talking about politics, but whether you like him or not, a lot of people say, "Hey, Donald Trump's the president, but he's not my president." Well, I think a lot of fans can say Randy Carlyle is the Ducks head coach, but he's not my head coach. That's how a lot of you feel. And I got similar messages like that the last couple of weeks. And that's where we're at. And it's frustrating because we talked about it on the last show. We said all the kinds of issues about the Ducks trying to change things, turn things around. We talked about a lot of things. And it was kind of interesting, Eddie. It actually popped up in an article on NBC. They talked about a lot of the stuff that we said. We talked about, as you brought up, hey, you brought back the coach again. You can't escape that. You've already done that. But now, if you fire him after bringing him back a second time, that's even making the situation worse. Now not only did you make a bad decision, but now you're admitting that you made another bad decision. And that's what the NBC article talked about, just like we had on our last show. So I thought that was interesting. There are some other things that are factoring in with this, too. We can't just look at pride on Murray. But a lot of people out there, you're sitting there and you're going, well, hey, Mike and Eddie, it's obvious Randy Carlyle needs to go. And we're not going to disagree with you. But here's the problem. The problem is, in Bob Murray's head, does he need to go? And I think the answer is no. In Murray's head, and let me explain, and we kind of talked about it on the last show as well. The Ducks aren't on a major losing streak, okay? They've stopped that. Yeah, they're playing good some games, they're playing poor some other games and whatnot, but they ended that 7-game losing streak. They're only 3 points out of first place in the Pacific Division right now, and as we talked about, they're still battling it out for the wild card. As of right now, it's early. We all know the Ducks. They don't play so great in October, November. They turn it around December. And then, of course, in April, we all know what happens. At least not every season, but a majority of the time, unfortunately. So right now, the Ducks aren't in last place. They're still in contention for a playoff spot. They're not on a losing streak. They've had a lot of injuries, which Eddie talked about was, bullshit as far as on one of the previous shows, as far as Carlyle not playing or at least not managing this team to winning. But in Murray's eyes, Eddie, I think if you take all that stuff, you can take his pride, which we talked about in the last show. You can take the playoff potential. Like I said, it's still a lot of hockey to go. The injuries, the rookies, not being on a losing streak. I think you look at all those things, and to me, if the Ducks are able to at least be in the fight and make the playoffs, yeah, maybe they get their asses kicked and swept like they did against San Jose, which would be terrible. But I think the fact that they can at least be somewhat of a competitive team in Murray's eyes is why Carlyle is still going to be here. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying that's why Carlyle is still here, Eddie.
Hey, he's just stubborn. It's really stubborn, and I don't think he wants to admit that he was wrong. And hold on.
Can you give us a chance? Your organization.
Hold on, Donald Trump. We're not talking about you. Sorry about that. Donald Trump came on the show for a second. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. He's not my coach. I like how you said "not my coach" and compared that reference. Yeah, number one, it's not politics. We're not talking about politics at all. And he's the president, and it's not going to change whether you like it or not. I mean, whatever. Our coach is something that can change, and I'm going to throw this out there and say this: not my coach has been since Bruce Boudreau was hired. Because he wasn't my coach, and Carlyle, when he got rehired, wasn't my coach. And I thought both of those decisions were bad on the Ducks, especially, Boudreau coming in from Washington with all his failed success over there with a way better team than he had with the Ducks, and the Ducks brought him over. I mean, he's a great coach for the regular season, and if you want a participation trophy, but he's not going to give you the Stanley Cup. I understand the reason of bringing back Carlyle. I didn't like it, but I understand why they did. It was I think they were 20. I don't know. They were celebrating something, and they're I think 10 years of winning the cup. It's like, all right, everyone got happy, like, oh yeah, he's back. We're gonna win the cup, like a little fairy tale story. But no, I wasn't happy about that either. And I mean, I'm bitter with the Ducks management and organization how they have been. With their coaching decisions, because I mean, if it was up to me, I look at things a different way, and I love this game, and I read, from morning to night, I read every single bit of hockey news there can be. Like I always say, I am hockey because I am. I mean, this is my life, and this is what I love to do. Like I said, Carlyle should not have been hired again, and Murray. I think it's time for Murray to go too. In my opinion, he's not really doesn't show faith in the team, and the way he mismanages things. Like, yeah, I understand you're trying to work with the number and trying to be under a certain budget, but I mean, sometimes you got to take a chance. I mean, you have to, put all your money down on black or red if you're playing, roulette or whatever it's called. You just had to make changes in chance, and he's not really he wants to just do the safe bet and do everything, just a safe manner. But you know what? The Penguins GM made some, changes in their lineup and made some serious, trades. They won the cup. The Kings took a chance and made some trades, and they won, a couple cups. I mean, you have to be able to just, step on that ledge and jump and just hope that a parachute's going to be, sporadically come out of your ass or something. He's not willing to do that, and I don't think the Ducks owners are willing to change that as well. I think they're just – it seems like they're content with being mediocre, and that's what bothers me a lot about the Ducks. Like, this is not a mediocre team. Like, this Ducks team is they have the potential to be great, and they have the potential to win another cup and another one, and there's no reason why we should downplay that and just be content with being mediocre. If you're content with that, then I'm sorry, you're in the wrong sport and you're in the wrong game. I mean, if you're content with losing, I mean, you should go, go watch soccer or something where they hand out participation trophies, because this is hockey, and 100% winning mentality should be that, the first and foremost.
Yeah, you're going to get no argument from me. I agree 100%. And, that's basically what some of the fan questions we had this week echo what we've been talking about already. We had Lisa ask, what do you think it's going to take for changes to happen? Obviously, a coaching change would be great, but these guys can't put the puck in the net. The veteran guys can't seem to get things done. Should something also happen with the personnel on ice? And, the thing is we've all talked about it. The elephant in the room is already out. Everybody knows that Carlyle should be gone. That's not going to be a question. But as far as on ice, no, I don't see a whole lot of change with the personnel. Honestly, this last week, I thought the Ducks played, if you look at 9 periods of hockey, I thought that they played good, for 6 or 7 of them. I really thought that they played, an outstanding game against Nashville. They played a solid game against Toronto. They started out good against Vegas, and then obviously the last couple of periods were terrible. But at least this last week, looking at that, I don't think the on-ice changes are what's going to be needed. That's not the issue. The issue is the coaching staff. And like you said, Eddie, with Murray there, I don't see it happening, and I don't see the Samiolis doing anything. So I think we're kind of going to be stuck with Carlyle. Like I said, unless the Ducks go on some crazy losing streak where they're losing a ton of games again, and they're way out of the playoffs, I don't see it happening. I know it's unfortunate. You're probably sitting there going, really? I go, no, I'm being serious. I don't think Murray will do it. I don't think he has the balls to pull the trigger and fire Carlyle. I don't, unless this team goes way south. And right now they're not. They're one game under 500. They're 3 points out of first place. Despite all the craziness going on, they're still in the hunt. And as long as they're in the hunt, I think in Murray's mind, that's okay. You may not think that's okay, and we don't think that's necessarily okay, but that's just where it's at. So, for this team to change, it's going to be tough. We look at the stats too for this team, and it's pretty crazy. The NBC article even talked about it too, Eddie. They talked about the Corsi stats. And, you can look on it on their website, too. You can go to Corsi. It's actually corsica.hockey. And you can go on there and look at their stats. But, they mentioned it. We mentioned on the last show. You look at some of the things here. The Ducks have been one of the worst in the Corsi 4 stat, which takes into account not just plus and minus, missed shots, block shots, and all that stuff. The Ducks have been one of the worst in the leagues besides Ottawa. So, like I said, they talked about that. But you look at some of the other things that are going on with this team. It's the goals. They have just over 2 goals a game, 2.05. The only team worse than that is the actual Kings, who, of course, we lost to recently. Against, not too bad. The Ducks' defense is actually pretty good. The 2.81 against, which is 10th in the league. And their penalty kill is 82.9%, which is actually 6th in the league. So, the Ducks' defense hasn't been too bad. But the goals for and their power play is only 14%, which is 26th in the league. So they've had some issues there. But not all is lost with this team. They're playing decent defensively. Of course, they're giving up a ton of shots, 61.1 shots a game, which is second worst in the league. But I don't think it's all gloom and doom. I think this team can still turn around and can make the playoffs, which was actually another fan question too. We had Jimmy ask us if we think we'll make the playoffs. I know we talked about it in the last show. I know, Eddie, you weren't as hopeful that they'd make the playoffs as I was. But I think the thing is with this team overall, as long as they're somewhat competitive, and you can argue about the definition of competitive, whether it's these highs and lows that we've seen, or that they're going to be maybe a playoff team. But Eddie, you can weigh in. I think as long as they're still where they're at right now, I just don't see Murray getting rid of Carlyle.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. It just, I think we can be a lot better, and it'll change up the locker room. Hey, we fired your coach. The players are going to be like, holy shit. And our head coach got fired. I mean, all of our asses are on the chopping block. I mean, even people with no trade movements. I mean, yeah, you have that movement and you think you're safe, but you know what? If a coach comes in there and he can scratch you, like, hey, that movement, your little clause says that, hey, you don't have to play. And yeah, some people think, oh, it's probably free money if I just sit out and play. No, these are hockey players. They want to be on the ice as much as they can. And if they're willing to or able to, if they had that mentality, not mentality, but if they had the ability, they'd probably be on the ice 110% of the time just to want to play. I mean, it's just for the love of the game. Those like no trade movements are not really, things could be changed for that. As far as the coaching thing, like I said numerous times, I mean, it's unfortunate. It sucks, but I mean, it is what it is. And we're just going to continue to be mediocre. I mean, with playoffs, I still, just the way this team is inconsistent, I'm not sure right now. And I'm still unsure unless it changes. Yeah. The Nashville game was cool. The Toronto game was cool. And if they up their game and physicality like that and play like that each and every game, that's cool. If the Ducks somehow make the playoffs and win the cup this year, then I will sit here and make a video and I will apologize for me talking crap about the coach and say how wrong I am. I really hope that happens. But I mean, playoffs, it's going to be hit or miss, and I'm kind of like so on it right now. I just, what I've been seeing, the inconsistency, like you said, Mike, it just really bothers me. One of my beer league teams that I'm playing in a championship game on Sunday, we went, I think it was like we won one game all season. And it's every season we always just win one or two games. We suck during the regular season, but we came in playoffs and we always win. Something about our game just elevates. Fortunate for us, we don't have Randy Carlyle behind our bench because I'm pretty sure we probably would have lost. But I think something needs to change, like I said before. And the playoffs, if we do make playoffs, I can't see Carlisle at this point, being able to take us to that promised line and winning the cup. Playoffs is a different ball game as well, and the game is even that much more faster, and you have to make some changes and take some gambles and risks on the fly. And like I said, he's not really adapting to variable change when it comes to the regular season right now. And I don't think that he'll do that in the playoffs, which you've seen before. Yeah, I mean, thank you for all you've done, Coach. But I really, really hope, our GM opens his eyes and like, hey, it's time to go. And, let's shake things up. It's not your fault. I just want the players, to get rattled a little bit and hopefully change their game. I mean, look what happened with the Kings. They fired their coach and they got an interim coach, and he comes in, a big game against the Ducks, and they beat the Ducks. I mean, yeah, I'm sure all those players got, their head woken up like, oh, man, this is reality and things that happen like this. And, yeah, I mean, the Kings still suck. I'm glad they're in the bottom. That's awesome. But, you know what? At least the Kings, management, Rob Blake over there, decided change was needed, fired the coach, and then they got they made a trade, which, I'll talk about that later. But, I mean, yeah, at least they did something to try to better their team. I really hope the Kings start winning, and I hope they're just being like a mediocre losing team, because I don't want them to get Jack Hughes, the big the prospect everyone's talking about. I would hate to get give them more firepower. I just hope they barely miss playoffs and get that like mediocre first round draft pick like in the middle.
It's interesting you bring up Hughes, because I want to just start a hashtag lose for Hughes. Because, I mean, that's what I've seen other people saying is, hey, the Ducks should tank, because if they tank, maybe Carlisle's gone and the Ducks can go get Hughes. So that's what I've seen some people saying out there. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Yeah, like I said, maybe they go on a crazy losing streak and they get rid of Carlisle. But the whole thing with Hughes out there, yeah, I mean, I get it. But I think it's kind of funny, because we had one fan ask us about this, Brian, who would be the short-term solution. And before the season started, I had a chance to talk to Kevin Bieksa. He didn't think that Carlisle was going to survive the season, and he said that Dallas Eakins would take over. And that's who I'm looking at as the short term for the Ducks. If Murray has the balls to actually pull the trigger, which I don't think he does. I don't think he will. But if he did, that's who I'd put. I mean, the goals are 6-4, 1-1. Or 6-4-2, however you want to look at it. They have an overtime loss and a shootout loss, but they've been doing decent. Comtois down there scoring some goals. Terry's been on a crazy 9-point scoring streak. But that's what I would look for to fulfill the spot if Murray was able to pull the trigger and get rid of Carlisle. And that's who would carry this team through the rest of the season. Will they do it? I don't know. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's who I'd like to see finish it out with the Ducks. I'd like to see Dallas Eakins come up and take over this team and run with it. I just feel like he has a lot of enthusiasm amongst the younger players, a lot of motivation. I think he's the guy that could propel this team to a better level. But like I said, Eddie, I don't know if they'll do it. But what do you think? If the Ducks were, for some reason, if they actually fired Carlisle, who do you think that they should turn to for the rest of the season?
Well, I agree with you 110% on bringing up Dallas over there. He's proving himself. He gets along with the players, and the players seem to like him a lot. He's a player's coach, and does what's necessary for the team. And I would love to see him get that opportunity, especially with the extension he signed with the Ducks, and get that opportunity. He's a different style of coach, and that change might be great. Also, I want to throw this out there. I know it's like way out of the, there's no rumors. It's just me, pulling these out of my ass. But Patrick Wall, I think he's a GM or coaching a junior team right now. I mean, he came back on the Avalanche when he first season as head coach, and he turned that franchise around and made them, he was a hard ass and he was hard on them, and I'm pretty sure a lot of players didn't like the way he coached, but he made that team better. And if you guys don't know, the Avalanche are coming off like one of their worst seasons under Joe Sacco, and he just turned that team around. You guys remember Patrick Wall's the first game against the Ducks. Him and Boudreau almost went at it. He tried to go after Boudreau by pushing the glass. I think someone like him on the Ducks would be awesome. It's just unfortunate. He's over there, coaching juniors or being a GM. I doubt it's not going to happen. It's just me saying like wishful thinking. I doubt, like you said, people's balls aren't in the right place, or if they have any, so they're not making that change. And I doubt Patrick Wall would even be interested in coming back, especially just as a coach, because he wants a little bit more control of, the organization of the team. Hence why he left Colorado over there. But I think he would be a great asset to the Ducks and to kind of turn them around. And he's that coach that takes chances and he can adapt and he changes his game. He's unpredictable on what he's going to do in coaching wise. I mean, I think he has a record for pulling a goalie in the third period with like 15 minutes left in the game or something like that. I mean, I remember I was at a game against Boston. They were down, and Denver over there, they were down like 3-1 or 4-1 or something like that. Patrick Wall pulls a goalie. I want to say there's like 10 or 15 minutes left in the third period. He pulls the damn goalie. The Avalanche score 2 goals. They score another one. They come back and win that game. This is crazy. But I mean, you got to take a chance like that. Yeah, I mean, the chances were slim on his part, and he took a gamble and it paid out. I mean, he put his money on, on Block and it hit Block and he won. And I think that's what we need in the coach. I mean, it would cool to have Patrick Wall to change his team around, but I mean, I think Dallas Eakins is the first runner up, and I think he should, give him the opportunity to prove himself at the NHL level again. Even before Coach Q, I know people are going frantic and, Coach Q this, Coach Q that. Yeah, it's awesome. I would love to have him behind the bench, but I mean, his price is steep, and Bargain Bob is not going to pay the money that Coach Q deserves. So it's really slim that's going to happen. I mean, if that happens, I'll be really shocked. I'll go buy a lottery ticket that day and hopefully get lucky on that. But I mean, chances of that happening is really slim. So I mean, we should stop, putting all our eggs in one basket for that. But I think Dallas Eakins, should be, and hopefully he'll be the new head coach of the Ducks, in the short time soon. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I would crack up if Waugh was, because you remember when him and Boudreaux went at it, pushing the glass back and forth. So it would be.
I lost hilarious. My mind.
Yeah, I lost it. Yeah, I mean, that was hilarious. You want to talk about a guy that's fired up? I mean, whether or not you agree with everything he did, I mean, Patrick Waugh, I mean, it's a guy that's, pretty, motivating individual. So I think like you.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was at that game. I was live at that game, and it was just, I had my Ducks jersey on. I support the Avs. They're my second favorite team. I used to go to a lot of games out there, and I know a lot of the people. So I wore my Avs jersey out there, or my Ducks one that time when the Ducks came, and I mean, people were giving me just friendly jabs and here and there, but just being at that game, I want to say 9 rows from the glass when that happened. And oh my God, everyone lost their mind. The guy next to me, he's like, I almost poured my beer on you, but I didn't want to waste my $12 beer. Just like joking wise. Oh my God, that game was ecstatic. And then I talked to Landeskog after that game too. And he told me, thank you for coming to the game like he always did. And he told me my jersey sucked and he didn't like it. Just the emotions in that game were just amazing. Oh man, like Patrick Wall I think that game was a game changer for the Avalanche too. Like that really solidified them and made them what they became that season, and almost making their Stanley Cup appearance. But I mean, he's a coach that's unpredictable, and I think that's what we need. I mean, especially in today's game, Mike. This game changes so fast. I mean, my beer league games change fast, and it's not even fast like the professionals. I mean, we skate probably like a negative speed compared to them. But you have to really change your game up. And like I said, this coach isn't doing that, and we need something to happen. I mean, damn.
Yeah, I agree. But the problem is Wall's too crazy for the Samuelis. That's just the way I look at it. They're not going to go with someone that's like that. That's the unfortunate thing. That's why we're stuck with where we're at. I mean, you and I, hey, if Wall was in there, holy crap, that'd be crazy.
I would lose my mind.
We would lose our. Of course, that would be nuts if he was in there, which it's highly unlikely. But that's what I think's the issue. Is I don't think that they gamble enough, this organization, and we've seen that. I think Murray's done a great job getting younger players. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate the job that Murray's done. I think he's done a great job. He's gotten all kinds of younger players. He's brought up people. He's signed people for most part good deals. But the problem is they don't go out on that limb, whether it's on the coaching staff or on certain players and stuff like that. And until this organization does that, I don't know if they'll ever get back to the Stanley Cup. We just don't go head first into the pool. We like put our toe in and go, maybe it's kind of lukewarm. I don't know. We'll try it. We'll test the water. We don't jump in. And I think that's a problem. And, there was a lot of rumors this last week that Nylander and the Ducks, they were talking about Montour's name came up, Manson's name came up, Richie's name came up. I heard all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Everyone's going nuts. Obviously, this was all before Fowler got hurt. So now the situation as it is kind of tough. Are the Ducks going to try and trade for a defenseman now? Because you've got Lindholm, Manson, and Montour, your top three. And then after that, sorry, some of the other guys haven't been cutting it. And even those top three have had some games that have been off. So that's the other issues. Okay, if the Ducks don't change the coach, are they going to make some kind of trade? You've got Fowler that's going to be out, we know, for some substantial amount of time. But are they going to pick up a defenseman to help out this team? Like we said, defensively, this team has not been too terrible, as far as goals against and penalty kill, even though they've been leaned on a lot this season. But the offense has not produced on the forecheck as much. And, of course, now Eves is out. If you didn't hear that news, he had back spasms. They're saying he could play in the game against Colorado, but, he was sorely missed this week. So the injury bug continues. It happens to all the teams. But to me, if the Ducks aren't going to make a coaching change, they need to make a trade, pick up somebody. And will they do it? I don't know. You have Perry on the LTR for a while. Like I said, the problem is when he comes back that his salary gets reapplied to the cap. So will the Ducks do something? I don't know. But the Ducks did put Luke Shin on waivers, who's been terrible this season. They should have done it sooner, but they finally did it, and he's gone. I didn't like bringing him in. I didn't like him or Schuster. They both are terrible. For lack of a better word, they're not good. They should have never brought him in.
A top 10 pick, a draft pick, Luke Shin, and he's getting on waivers. I think he was traded too for JVR or something like that, if I recall. But man, he sucks. He sucks not in a good way. And I want to say sucks ass, but some people like that. But that was a bad pickup, and he's slow. He had a few games that were cool, like his hits. I want to say, like, I can count on one hand how many good hits he had this season. But he was just a traffic cone, and we all know, like, driving in the street, we see a traffic cone. We just get as close as possible and blow right past it. That's exactly what every player did playing against the Ducks when he was in.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, Mike, I was going to ask you, when you're talking about trading for a defenseman, who would you want to see on the Avalanche? I heard a trade rumor on Insider Trading over there on TSN talking about how the Avalanche are kind of like, I don't know if he's on the block or not, but Nikita Zadorov from the Avalanche. He's a really big defenseman, 6'5", 230 pounds. This dude loves to hit, and he has some highlight hits every game. I don't know if that would be an option for the Ducks to get him. The Avs are looking for a forward. And we have a lot of forwards, especially a lot of young guys, and I can see that being a possibility. He blocks a lot of shots, he hits, and he's not going to put up those 50, 60 point numbers at all. But he's something that I think that the Ducks should take a look at. I don't know if there's any other players in mind that you've thought of. And this question comes from Richard Gonzalez, my alter ego and my second personality. He asked this question, like, what other players you want to see on the Ducks? My pick would be Zadorov. I think he'd be a good fit. His physicality is there, and he's big physical defenseman that blocks shots and knows his defensive awareness. He gets caught sometimes out of position, but I think with some fine tuning, I think he'd be great for the Ducks. What do you think, Mike, about him or any other defenseman in your mind that you would like to see on the Ducks?
No, I agree. I think he would be a good addition, or any kind of defenseman similar. We don't need any more two-way defensemen. We don't need any more offensive defensemen. We don't need that. That's not the issue with the Ducks. This team doesn't hit like it used to hit. You and I talked about this on the last couple shows. The only one out there really hitting people on defense is Manson. That's it. No one else is really doing anything. Like, we've even seen Lindholm get blown by and not knock people out in front of the net anymore. It's frustrating. The Ducks defense is not tough. They're soft as hell. They are. That's just the way it is. Besides Manson, you can't tell me that there's one player on the defense on this Ducks team that goes around and hits people. Nobody does. They don't. And that's part of the problem. Nobody's afraid of this team. You can go stand in front of Gibson and do whatever you want. I mean, we saw Fowler in that game against Nashville. Of course, he got hurt. We saw him deck one of the Nashville players, which I was shocked. I was like, wow, nice. You went and freaking knocked somebody over. Like, they don't do that. So whether if they bring him in from Colorado or somebody else, that's what the Ducks need. They need some physical type defensemen. I mean, you look at like Peterson last night in that game against Toronto. He did terrible. He was turning over the puck. He wasn't laying the body. I was specifically watching him to see how he would do in that game. And I was like, man, dude, you need to pick your shit up. I'm sorry. He does. And when he came up in the beginning, he seemed to be fine. But this last week or so, he's just been off. And that's the issue with the Ducks. They don't have defensemen that are big and that are playing the game. Shin and Schuster, like you said, people just freaking blow by them and get a good scoring chance against Gibson. And I think that's a huge problem with this team. I don't think the Ducks defense is awful. I think it's a decent defensive core, but they don't have anybody in there that when the other team comes in, if I go towards the net, I'm going to get my ass handed to me. Besides Manson, other than that, no one else on the Ducks defense goes around and hits people. They don't.
Nope, not at all.
And I think that's a huge problem. And that's part of the reason why, they get crazy going towards Gibson, in these games because, hey, I can walk in front of the net and no one's going to go after me. So, I mean, that's a big issue. But, yeah, I'd like to see them do that. We already saw some trades this week. We saw Hagelin and Pearson get traded between LA and Pittsburgh. So they're making some moves to try and improve their stuff. So I would like I said, I don't think the Ducks are going to make a change in the coaching area, but I would like for them to make some kind of player trade. What do you think, Eddie?
Well, same here. Just, send shockwaves down the roster like, hey, we're trying to change things up. We want you guys to be better and not just being happy with being content. The Kings and Penguins trade, I don't know what the Kings are thinking. I think they just made a trade just to send that message to their players. But, I mean, Hagelin for Pearson, I think Pearson has a lot more upside, compared to Hagelin. Hagelin hasn't been the same since the playoffs when the Penguins went over there. He's a quick guy, but he hasn't really upped his game. So I think the Penguins really stole something from the Kings and Pearson. I think Pearson's going to have a great success over there with the Penguins, especially with their organization and how their coach likes to change up the game and let players kind of play their own game and their own style and do their thing. So, I mean, that's great for the Penguins. I know you're a Penguins fan, not a Penguins fan, but you do like the Penguins as well too, Mike. So I'm pretty sure you're excited to see Pearson go over there and the Kings get that much older and not better. But you know what? They made something happen and they changed something, and that's what's needed. Like, something needs to happen. We haven't seen anything happen from the Ducks. It's been quiet over there, a dust storm. I mean, the only thing that changes periodically with the Ducks organization is they increase their beer and parking prices, which sucks. But, I mean, something needs to happen. I mean, if it starts for a mediocre trade to make our team a little bit better, that's something. It sends a message to the players too, like, hey, well, yeah, it's a minor trade, but our GM's actually, picking up his balls and doing something, and maybe we should step up our game. You mentioned too with our defense, yeah, they've been okay and they're not that bad, but I mean, okay and not that bad is not going to cut it in the NHL. You got to be good, the best of your ability. You got to clear the freaking net. I mean, you can't let players just go over there and sit there and swipe right all day on freaking Tinder in front of Gibson. It sucks. And then see that Dallas game a few weeks ago too, when Gibson had to, hit someone or put his glove in someone's face. Like, no, you shouldn't do that. And that's what pisses me off too. And my players, when I play goalie, they let people come all over my net and just stand there. I hate that. And it just, I tell my team all the time, if you guys are going to let that happen, then why the hell am I going to try to make a save? If you guys aren't protecting me, like, why am I going to protect you? So, I mean, hopefully something changes and stuff like that. If not, I'm going to keep waking up every Saturday morning pissed off of the week, and I'm going to have my beer in the shower, which we can talk about that in a little bit too, Mike, about beer in the shower, because I think that's an important topic we can talk about. But yeah, I don't know how much I can say. I wish I can speak, different languages. I know I'm part Mexican. I don't know any Spanish, but I don't know what change in Spanish. El chango. Or I don't know what Bob Murray speaks, but I want to just, learn that language and just talk to him like, dude, change is needed. Like, come on. Like, man, do something to help this team get better and to shake up their roster and like, hey, you know what? Scratch a top player or something. Just let them know, hey, you know what? I'm the boss and I don't like being mediocre and I want to see you guys play the best of your ability. Like, I just want something to happen like that.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't have to go far to see that kind of change. You just can drive up the 5 freeway. You know, the traffic's pretty terrible out here in California. But if you drive up the 5 freeway and look at the Kings, they got rid of the coach. Then they made a player trade. You know, yeah, they still are terrible, but at least they're trying to do things, you know, to try and improve the situation. And we're not. And that's it. Just goes all back to what I've said before is yeah, Murray's pride is part of the issue with Carlyle. But if the Ducks are somewhat even remotely close to the playoffs, I just don't see him doing a whole lot. I just really don't. I think this team just kind of hangs on. You know, Perry comes back around the trade deadline. At least that's what was the original timeline. And that, you know, we just go from there. And as long as the team, you know, they're only a couple points out of first, which isn't terrible. You know, the way the season's gone, but kind of crazy. They're 3 points out. It's not awful, but that's where we're at right now. So, I hate to say it, but I just don't see them doing a whole lot. If the Ducks made a trade in the next couple of weeks, I would really be shocked. I would be happy if they did do something, but I'd be shocked. I don't see them doing a whole lot. I think that they're going to keep going on this path that we're going on, which I know a lot of you don't want to hear, but that's just the reality. I don't see them taking some kind of big ballsy move and either getting rid of Carlyle or making a trade. That's just the way it is. So, we're going to wrap up the show here pretty quick, but is there anything else around the league you want to talk about, Eddie, before we close out this show?
I think we kind of wrapped it up like during the show and stuff about, I guess Elliot Freeman, a trade speculation between the Penguins and Anaheim. I guess they were talking and it was said that they wanted Manson or Montour on their roster. I mean, that was before Fowler got hurt. So I think we can just, throw spaghetti at the wall on that rumor right there. The Pens signed their GM to a 3-year extension, and then he makes that signing. He announces that he has a few trades that he wants to do, and then he trades with LA. That's some of the news. Oilers traded, got Ryan Spooner from New York for Ryan Strom, whatever how you say his name. I don't really care. It's Oiler, so I don't care about that. But I guess they traded 2 Ryans, and then of course we talked about how the Penguins traded for Pearson as well. So I mean that's pretty much it around the news that I've been covering and watching. Yeah, I mean that's about it.
Yeah, and I guess just the other last thing to say is that don't forget about our patreon.com website, patreon.com/ducksandpucks. We had Rick LaBally signed up this week. And if you sign up, like we said, we're giving away a $200 gift card to Cool Hockey each month. Game tickets. We're also giving away the Niedermeyer retirement game, all kinds of gear too and whatnot. So if you get a chance, sign up on that. And like I said, we're trying to work on the watch parties as well. It's kind of been crazy this year, but we'll get those going, in the near future. So thank you for the support, and let's go Ducks.